a summarized history of Dhyre. So some of where we started, some of the influences that went into the creation of the clan. Maybe touch on some other clans in the Mando community, where and when it's relevant, and then just go from there. Make it a nice law night. And if any of you want to interject or got any questions, we can do that. It should be a nice discussion. So are you all happy with that? Good stuff.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Tally, you're just in time. How are you doing? You
Yeah,
doing
sorry
well?
for the delay. I'm alright, mate. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Leeds didn't lose, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, so we're just gonna start at the beginning, go into some of the how Dhyre started, some of the influences, all that sort of thing. Just go through some history. So the roots of Dhyre, they go back to around about 2013. Now it's a bit nebulous because the roots of the clan itself stretch back before the groups were founded. But essentially, it started off when about 2013, and basically I would just be a lone Mando, and I'd go to Travisham Empire's Death Star. I'd go to Vicious Swator's Hoth, his Sith Empire, and there I met people, and I started to train, make more Mandalorians, as it were. The first people that I ever made Mandalorians were Jaden GCW, a guy called Adrian 117, Panduka, a few others. They would go to be essentially the first generation of Mandos. Now at that time, it's a Mando clan without a group, so it's basically a close-knit collection of friends. In the traditional sense, it's very low key at this time. It'd take a while before we would grow into what we are now. But if we go into the influences even then, and we can see how it informs the way the clan is now. Essentially, a lot of the influences I got were from Jaster Varad, who was a mentor back in the day, before things went bad, and
Very bad.
and Phantom Face as well, because I got my start under here. Basically, back in the day, you had different camps, and this would go through 2013 from TE into TNME, which was the. In fact, before I get onto this, I'll explain the lie of the land. So you had a few different groups. The first major group was the Mandalorian. Was TME, I believe it was, the Mandalorian Empire, which the Mandalore at the time was Drippin.
Yeah, that's what this armor was from, that period.
Yep. And then after that, you had the new Mandalorian Empire under Jaden GCW, who went on to be Mandalore for a time. And then you had Jaster Varad, who returned after that. And it's from there that you start to see NME of the new Mandalorian Empire, and you start to see the beginning of the Crusades, which at the time, for about a year or two, the Mandalorians basically destroyed the entire fucking Star Wars genre, essentially. We went and fought everything. So I'll go into some of the influences that the clan had at the time and going into now. So there were a few ideological camps. You had the Death Watch, so under Jack at the time. Hi, hello, Mutton Chops, mate. How are you doing? You doing well?
Speaking of Jack, it's me, one of his old goons.
Yes. You been up to much? Not seen you in a
I've
while.
come to haunt you.
Ah, no. Reminds me.
Quickly,
how
I must
old
make
I
you
am.
all say the N-word and watch Live Leak, or you're all getting demoted.
Ah!
Holy
That
shit! It's a
sounds
go.
right.
Remember when he did that kill, when he would legit
yes.
have like nights on Skype where he would make people watch Live Leak shit, or he would demote
Is that
people.
legit? Is that a thing that he did?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
that. He
What
did
the
that.
Fuck.
This was like
I can't get started
2014.
with-
This was
Yeah.
2015. Like when Jack was at his edgiest.
Yeah.
Like
Some
Okay.
fucking
slurs,
wild shit
slurs
back
regularly. All the Live Leak you could think of. Like specifically, what he would make us watch was like the genital mutilation category.
then. What the fuck?
Yeah, that was fun. It was explicitly the demotion part was for officers because he
Yeah.
knew he could fuck with us more.
Fair enough.
But everyone else, it was just he was trying to go for the shock factor, obviously. And
So
then
yes.
then there was the funny nights where he would do the Clone Wars watch nights, but it's only the parts of Death Watch, and they would skip the part where they lose and just say we won. The end.
It all
Sounds
ended
like Jack.
happily ever after.
And
But yeah.
the bitch Satine died, and she deserved it. The end.
Yes. So yes, ideological camps. That's Death Watch. That kind of gives you an idea of how they were at the time. But
Death
so,
Watch kind of
but-
sucks.
Yeah. So
It did.
we were always we always based ourselves more off the true Mandalorians, which at the time Jaster embodied. I'll explain a little bit about Death Watch, and if I say anything, in fact, Brand, do you want to give a quick summary of what Death Watch was about at the time, like how
At
they
the
were?
time, Death Watch, at least for the majority of the iterations I was there for, it was literally just the grand summary of every like major clan. It didn't really focus on clans so much than they did Mandalorian community.
Yeah.
A lot of the people in it went on to go form different clans way later after, because Jack was a very impulsive person, so he would come and go like in bursts. And whenever he was around, okay, oh guys, it's Mandalorian season. We're getting super active. And then like Jack would get everyone really hyped for something. He would pay a bunch of devs to do shit for him, including doing some moderate dev shit himself. And then a few months would go by, we'd do some stuff. All the hype would die down. Then everyone else would scatter to the wind and do whatever they wanted to do, like eventually go to the other clans. But then eventually everyone would come back, mainly the old Vizslas, like myself and others, and we'd always constantly reform Death Watch. And it was really just, I want to say it was the legacy, like extra community, like raiding group, because like most of the Mandalorians that wanted to be Mandalorians that started out without like any concept of clan stuff, that's where they got their start. Usually it was Death Watch. They were raiding like other parts of the Star Wars genre, or just outright other clans and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we raided RGR a shit ton. Oh my god, that was hilarious. It was right after the era when RGR got kicked to the curb by RGRM themselves, like their own clan had ditched them. I was in it at that point, and I just basically told Jack how they were a ripe target because they were a bunch of mock government nerds with like next to none of them knowing how to fight. The ones that did were all rejects or people that wanted to be higher ranks but couldn't because they sucked. And yeah, it was true. And they got their we would raid them and tease them so much to the point where Ben literally tried to get them all blacklisted from everything, and Jack was laughing his ass off the whole fucking time because he knew Ben was like a terrible person to begin with. So he was just like, it was funny.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Ben was Decamet, who was an early Mandalorian.
Blow stuff up one.
Yeah, an
Yeah.
ally of Jaster, and Jack is Ipri Vizsla, who was the leader of Death Watch. But that is kind of Death Watch in a nutshell. Dhyre wouldn't really exist until later. That we got our start around about this era, but they were always the main rivals of Jaster's group, as it were. The impression we had at the time was that Death Watch were, compared to the main Mandalorians, they were more militaristic. The importance on individual clans was looser. And at least this was the impression. The impression was that Death Watch would embody the militaristic aspect of the Crusaders without any of the honor or restraint that true Mandalorians should show. And Dhyre would always got its early influences from the true Mandalorians, which Jaster at the time embodied. Now, the true Mandalorians essentially called for a balance between combat and honor. the importance of clans, which should be always embodied and maintained the highest to the highest degree, the autonomy of them, and the sanctity of the Mandalore, which was also a very big one. And this would sort of go on to become the core identity of Dhyre, although the Mandalore bit would would sort of would fade. The rest of it
We don't talk
we'd
about
hold.
that.
The rest of it we held on to would become the
We
core
don't
of
talk
Dhyre.
about the many attempts to make a
Yeah.
centralized Mandalore government group.
Yes. There were many different people over the years who would try to centralize the community, to get rid of the clans. We opposed them all, and it says a
No.
lot. I think that they are all gone and we are still here. And the
Well, they're
clan,
they're there, but they're all all of their
Well, yeah.
attempts are just empty fucking groups. They're all dumb, and
yeah,
they all had
that's what I mean. Not
The
that
idea-
they're not,
months worth of
yeah,
traction.
not that they're not here, but that they failed is a better way of putting it.
Yeah,
The very idea
everybody
of getting
just moved on.
the very idea of getting rid of clans in general just sounds retarded to me.
Well, it's not even that they wanted to get rid of clans. They just wanted everyone to adhere to this centralized governmental structure or hierarchy.
I get you.
Which
Yeah,
was
it was
outright stupid
yeah.
because nobody
a
got
massive
along.
watering down of clans. This
Yeah,
would
they
come a lot
wanted everyone
later.
to be. They also just wanted people to be very, subservient to each
Yeah.
to the main
Yeah,
quote
we're
unquote
skipping
hierarchy.
Yeah.
through times. So we're skipping through times a bit. This would come later, but essentially, gradually, various different people came to the belief that the clans were holding back the development of the community and that they should be watered down and rendered powerless. So Dyer's essentially got the foundation of Dyer's traditions and its ideology and all of that was as a defender of the autonomy and independence of the clans, a, a defense and initially for the Mandalore and the community, although this and then just Dhyre as a whole, a mixture of combat and excellence through it, as a Mandalorian should be, and chill tradition and community as a clan should be. And this was the core of Dhyre's ideology. It's what maintained Dhyre through the ages, and I'll get onto exactly how in a bit. But there's various different ideologies initially. That's where Dhyre fell into. So you had the Crusades. At the time, it's important to note that the Mandalorians as a whole were a lot more contained than they are now. It was very easy to correct the genre. If a group made a Mandalorian empire that was full of fandos, we would raid them and correct their ways. But we were
I haven't
also
heard that term in a while.
it's been a while. So fandos was people who did not properly embody the Mandalorian spirit. This is 2015, this sort of era, who didn't know how to be Mandos. They just wore the armor. So your Mandalorian Empire groups with the same copy and paste armor who didn't know a lick of Mando or the res on there. At the time, we made it a point to honor the res on there. Another big thing about the true Mandalorians, by the way, and to speak in Mando and that sort of stuff. Now, the problem with the Crusades, although they were very successful, is that they made the Mandalorians very, very well known, and so that plus a few other things which would happen later brought the Mandalorians onto a big stage. The other problem is that around about 2016, Jasta starts experimenting with things such as big genre groups and the like, and eventually you'd get a mass influx of new Mandalorians in at the same time as you had a mass exodus of old veterans out. And this is the core of where the problems of the Mandalorian community start. Because up until then, it was always a point of pride for the veterans to teach the newer members. But now you had a bunch of people coming in from outside the genre who didn't really know what they were about, and the people inside were too busy feuding over the title of Mandalore or leaving to, they would come back later to properly teach the veterans. But we'll fast forward a bit because 2016 to 2018 are essentially our years in the wilderness. Before then, we were fairly big, although big by the standards of the time, which isn't very big, clan in the community. Then 2016 to 2018, I sort of stepped away a bit, and we would come back in 2018 when there was a big united community. And 2018 to about 2021 is our build era. So this was a time when we were slowly and gradually starting to rebuild as part of the community. Now you'd see a lot of threats, and Dhyre would take shape at a time where there were a lot of threats to it. So Lorenzo came back a number of times and was constantly trying to unseat the Mandalore, Merc at the time and a few others, and defeat the community. Varad would end up defeating Lorenzo 8-0 in the famous war at a time when all the other clans were blacklisting him. And you start to see the foundations of Dhyre's success laid early on. So at the time, there were a couple big clans. Before Varad, they would come later. At first, it was Taras and Forval, and then Varad would come later and would join this. But Dhyre was always the just below them. We didn't have the best gunfighters at the time, but we made it a point of pride to be an active and respectable clan that could at least still stand alongside the big ones. And we made it a point of pride to take people who were maybe not as good and to improve them, as a Mandalorian should. And we stood as a sort of a middle ground between these big, purely combat clans, although even then, at the time, they did have some elements of roleplay to them, and the clans that were purely roleplay but had no element of combat. So this is where you start to see the beginning of Dhyre's approach be formed in this sort of nucleus period. And we would gradually grow and grow and grow. And so you start to see people like Extreme, Brun, and Noah start to join during this period. Seda as well. The Killmaster XXL, my second in command, he joined way back when in 2014. He's the oldest Dhyre man still around, except for me. But you start to see Dhyre grow in this period, and at the time we wanted to maintain the Mandalorian community because we believed that it was the best thing in order to maintain the independence of the clans. Now, there's various people who disagree with that. There were always various problems with it, but Dhyre at least could go unmolested, and could at least grow continuously with a little bit of stability, which we viewed as better than the constant civil wars that happened before. And this sort of lasted until about 2020, 2021. We were not always active during this period, but generally we start to become a very solid clan. It's at this point we first become allies with the Arconian Imperium, led by Killer Pirate Police, who I knew from the Helgas genre. We start to have not daily, sorry. We have regular fights with them, joint fights with them. We start to become a much more powerful clan, and we start to become very active. And it's from there that Dhyre's prominence in the Mandalorian community starts to become established. Although, before I move on, I'll just pause here. Does anyone have any questions on anything I've touched on so far? Anything they want to clarify? Anything at all?
Nothing
Yeah,
from
I have-
here. I'm just listening.
Okay.
I have one
Uh,
funny little detail.
Yeah.
You mentioned Lorenzo. I should probably point out that in 2019, Lorenzo helped Murta Rooney spearhead an attempt to become Mandalore.
Oh yes.
And
Fuck.
that went
I remember that.
Yeah,
Oh, that was funny.
that basically caused the end of Rooney as a clan, although I
Yes.
prolonged it way too much.
It literally
I-
triggered
I-
like a absolute hazing fest for one. They just
yeah.
got made fun of. Everybody made fun of Rooney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we got.
I've skipped over a lot of things because this is primarily about Dhyre. The history of the community is crazy.
Yeah.
But as a funny aside, I was responsible for the destruction of Murta Rooney's clan. Murta Rooney's side of Rooney. I'll explain. So at the
I
time,
am
I was
so curious.
at the time
Oh,
I was
yeah.
aligned with Jaster, and I got a message from Hunt, who was a man inside Rooney, that he was. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but he was pretty dissatisfied with how things were going on, I believe. Specifically since Murta Rooney was being helped by Lorenzo. And I relayed that back to Jaster, and I was able, by talking further to Hunt, to convince him to abandon Murta, split off from that side of Rooney, and thereby Rooney was never able to recover. They were essentially, at least that side of Rooney were never recovered from it, and I believe
Neither
Murta
side
ended
was
up.
able to.
Yeah, Murta ended up leaving soon after. I was with Tally for a while when Tally was doing the other Rooney, but they also had their fair share of squabbles. So Rooney,
Yeah.
a brief aside with Rooney. Rooney is one of the oldest clan, or was one of the oldest clans in the Mandalorian community. It stretches it back to a man called Beskar Rooney, who was ancient when I was first becoming a Mandalorian in 2012. He left shortly after I joined. He was another old associate of Jasta's, but unfortunately, Rooney did not survive. It went from being an ancient clan to completely split down the middle into like eventually there were 4 different Roonies and they all
Yes.
died. So
The
the
fact that
history,
happened it was just crazy. It showed how fucking
yes,
big it was and how many people completely disagreed on how to take things. It was
Yeah.
kind of funny in that way because it was like the Balkans of the fucking Mando
Agree, yeah.
community.
But that's another point before I continue. We again see the seeds of Dyer's success here because you had Rooney, which was
Mhm.
split into 4. You had Kratos, which was originally owned by a man called Flareurker, who has made too many name changes. And then it was eventually taken over by Vex. There was a long story, but there was a scuff. And Kratos would go on to become one of the more powerful clans of the Mandalorian community, and our main rivals. But there was a scuffle. There was always a scuffle. There were people clashing over who should be leader of Kratos. Vex eventually became the leader, and he took things from there. You see quite a few clans, and all of them are quite unstable, usually for one reason or another. Dhyre, on the other hand, it's had a few. It's had a few different leaders. I was the founder of Dhyre. Handuka took over for a bit during Jasta's time. When I was gone, Keelman Echo took over for a bit later. But we never had any major instability like that. There's never been a time where there's been more than one rival Dhyre, and there has never been a time where there's been a serious challenge to the leader of Dhyre. No matter what has happened, even though there was a brief period of time where Jasta convinced me to give Panduka the leadership, which I am going to get on into in a sec, I'll touch on that briefly, we still survived. So Dyer has always made it a point of pride that, we're a clan. We are, it's us against everyone else, as it were, in the true traditional sense of the Mandalorian
Yeah.
word. And that
It
is
would
one
just-
of the things that has made it unique compared to many of the other clans, and is part of the reason why we are still here now, compared to some others. And all of these successful Mandalorian clans, those that are still left, have had to reckon with themselves in one way or another, and have had to have their own strengths. But that's one of Dyer's major ones. So after that, there was a brief period where we were aligned with Jasta. So we're in 2018 now. 2018 is when I've already I've gone back in time. 2018
Yeah.
to 2021 was, as I said before, when we start our resurgence. Initially, we used the old group, which was led by Panduka, and then after things with Jasta blew up, we went and made a new Dyer, which we built up. At that time, things were fairly primitive. I had to make uniforms from scratch as best I could, and we did what we could. Then after 2021 to about 2022, there was a brief period of inactivity. I don't remember why, but after that we did a big revive, and it's from there that
I
Dyer's.
remember why. It's because Jack was in charge and he fucking got distracted and went off to do. He fucked off again.
Yes,
And then the whole
that
community
was
died.
why. Yeah.
Remember, he came back and he's like, "We're gonna make Mandalore great again." And it
Oh,
was right
I
after.
remember. Yes.
It was.
Yeah,
And it
I
was
remember
because
that one.
he made the Concordia and season 2 of The Mandalorian had just come out, and everyone was super hyped. And then CGE outfits were starting, so there were like 1 or 2 outfits that now were made for stuff, and everyone was super hyped. And then 2 months went by, and he was gone again.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was probably why. Basically, the community went puff, and we decided to move on from Dyer for a bit. But that taught me an important lesson, and again, the seeds for the future of Dhyre was sown. Dhyre has always tried to stand on its own 2 feet. Even when we were part of the Mandalorian community, we wanted to maintain some level of independence from them because many clans were totally dependent on the community for their
Yes.
activity. I always
That
thought this
was
was a
one of the
bad
things
idea.
Jack actually liked, and that's what he did by design a
Yeah.
lot of the time was he made it where people had to rely on him because it bred a sort of a subservience. Just it made it easier for
Yeah.
him to get his way with a lot of people.
Exactly.
And so like he did it with development for one, like that's what he did that time was he offered everyone flashy doodads. He had offered everyone, oh, we're going to give standardized kits out to all the clans, like all these like dev kits and all these other things, which were just a bunch of different like scripts and other things he bought. He literally just bought dev kits from developers, and then he was just like, "I'm gonna hand it out to everybody who like bends the knee." And then like after that, they all fucked off and did their own thing. And then he stopped being like checking in and doing anything. So of course everybody goes their own way. And then I forget who was the one to claim Mandalore like 6 months later, and then started the next balkanization of everyone just fucking off to fight over who should be in charge. I forget.
Was it?
I know
Merc?
after that, I think it was Merc again. He came back and he said,
Yeah,
I'm
Merc
going to
came
do
back.
it this time.
Second run.
Yeah.
It was Merc, and then it was also, what's his name? The one who eventually said the N-word. I was under him for a minute as a protector. Zorad. And
Yeah.
that was
As well, was the
hilariously
saying the
bad.
N-word? Oh my god.
Well, that was the reason. That was the justification that he got canceled, even though it was hypocritical, because he just got recorded saying it in a voice chat, and
Yeah.
so and then somebody
He has
posted
a
that
lot of
somewhere,
controversy.
and then
He has a lot.
he's super like self-conscious about it. He wasn't one of the people who said it that often, so when people pointed it out, he's like felt really bad, and so he stood
different
down and
community.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah, they shamed him into like receding, and then everything kind of collapsed again. And I forget who took over after him. I think Cass took over again, right? But where
Yeah.
he like put on, did he use an interim title? He
Oh
didn't
no,
claim
no.
to be
It
Mandalore,
wasn't. It
right?
wasn't.
Or
It
did...
wasn't cast. It was after after Zorad. It was Prudy, I believe.
Prudy,
Yes, it was
okay.
Prudy.
Yeah.
Prudy Taurus.
But yes, I am skipping over a lot of history. But because as I said, the community. This is a summer. If I went into detail about everything, we'd be here until
Yes.
we'd be here till the end of the universe. But essentially, there was lots and lots of instability in the community. We steadily grew and tried to do our own thing. For a bit, we acted as sort of a bridge between Zorad's lot and the main community, and then we went back. Then 2021 was the end of we'll call it the first part of Dhyre. It's not really. It's definitely not the first iteration, but it's but we'll call it the end of the beginning, as it were.
Yeah.
And so there are many reasons for this. I think and then we move on to the Cuban Cossacks for a bit, but then eventually we all decide to come back to Dhyre, and this is where Dhyre really starts to take off. We'll say 2022. Yeah, so we'll say like 2021 to about 2022-ish is the rough period where you see the next resurgence of Dhyre under the community. The community goes generally steadily downwards during this time, but Dhyre always was going up. And we go from we see a lot of influx of skilled people at this time. Chayworth, for instance, Alex and Simply, they all come from Arconia. We had a few other people
a lot
as
of
well.
clans, a lot of people
had-
leaving the
Yeah,
clanning community.
yeah. So we had a lot of people coming from the clanning community, and they joined Dhyre. Now, this is again where another aspect of Dhyre starts to cement itself. So you see, we were not always successful in this, but you see in many other clans where this happens, it overwrites the culture of the main clan, and they become strictly combat related. What Dhyre has generally, not always, but generally, been very successful in doing, as Tyler can tell you, as many other people can tell you, is integrating these clanners into the clan aspect of Dhyre, getting them invested in the clan, getting them invested in the lore, all of that sort of stuff. And it was from this period that we start to do that, and we go from being simply one of the let's say a solid middle of the Mandalorian clan hierarchy to solidly one of the best, and we stay there. And this lasts until 2022. Various things happen. Eventually, when you get to 2022, people are sick and tired of the community. Zorad tries to. Joe is the Mandalorian. He tries to sell the title. This is discovered, and he resigns in disgrace. At which point, Vex comes in. Now, it's a bit. I'll take this up, and Vex decides to that now there isn't going to be a Mandalore. He sent us things under, I believe it was his new Mandalorian Empire, and we take this opportunity to go our own way in disagreement. I'll take a bit of time now to talk about Vex and Kratos, who have always been our main rivals. Kratos got its start under Vex's Hut Cartel after Flare Urka. Its traditions come from that, and Vex was always from the criminal side of the genre. So we have two very different approaches to things. Now, Vex.
Don't get me started on that clown.
So
Dude's like I see him as just a casino owner. I feel like he smells like cigarettes whenever he talks to me in game.
Yeah, so I won't go too much into detail. I don't mind him anymore. I've always had a bit of a complicated relationship with him. We get on, but we have our disagreements. He, at the time, because the community was right in the dumps, wanted to centralize things under himself, which was fair enough. Which I suppose was fair enough. We, of course, disagreed because, as you remember, and I didn't say this before, with Jack, when he wanted to centralize the clans under him, you saw that we remained independent because, again, you see the hang up of the difference between a sort of Death Watch mindset like Jack had and a true Mandalorian mindset like we had, and we decided to go independent because at this point the clans were extremely weak. We always believed in the Mandalore, which is ironic, but we decided to go independent due to various disagreements we have with Vex, just a difference in approach. And from 2022 to about 2024, this was Dhyre's independent period. So this was when we really start to become great, and it's when you see people like Echo join, when you see people he joined in 2021, but it's this sort of period that you start to see Dhyre really shoot up. From 2022 to 2024, there were really only two independent clans, Dhyre and Varad. All of the others that tried, be it the Redeemers, be it Rooney for a bit, be it a few others, all of the other clans that tried to go independent failed, except for Varad and except for Dhyre. And so there was a sort of...
They did. The only reason...
Oh, hello?
A lot of people in 2019 fled into the clanning community that managed to stick around.
You cut out. Button.
Oh. I was going to say, the only reason Varad survived the way Dhyre did was because they managed to, just barely get people in 2019, 2020 to come in that were clanners and would have had no remote interest in being Mandalorian, at least for a long time. But they managed to sink their claws into just enough of them that stayed, like Cool Game and Cool Cat and others. And then Cool Game was the big one because Cool Game Senpai, I don't even know what he goes by now. He's changed names so many fucking times. But he was like the one who literally got it to the point where, if I don't remember if you remember the UWF, the United World Federation.
I remember that. Yeah.
We banned the words Oya Varad because of his ass and the people, because they were literally using us as a recruiting ground. They were just fucking treating us like chopped liver and just ignoring whatever we said, using any off time between our raids to recruit people for that. And then talking smack about the rest of the people in the UWF, and then going off to go do Varad raids, which I mean is fine to like something more, but then to talk smack about a group you're still in was just God. It was so ugh. But they survived because of them. They survived because of them.
Partly. I'll push back on that a little bit. It did help the influx of clanners, as you mentioned, but Varad was during this period was consistently strong. It started off as a friend group.
It did
like
have
Dhyre did.
it had like a lot of loyalists already that were
Yeah.
good, and they stuck around.
So that's
But
the thing. Varad was
when the
already
owner
strong.
left,
Yeah,
when
Varad was.
what's his name went away.
It was it Senju initially? He was the first one.
Yes, Sunju, and he went away for a bit, but he was still owner, so they took a
Yeah.
hit because management was just weird,
I
and
think
they had to.
I think you're jumping ahead a little bit. This was.
Oh yeah,
after
that was later. That was later.
Yeah, this was
Oh.
later. At the time I'm talking about. Well, actually, let me clarify. So, 2022, Varad was in a bit of a low period, but before then, Varad was one of the strongest clans in the Mandalorian community.
Mhm.
It started and have always been close allies of ours. It started off as a friend group. They were able to grow very large by, as Bran said, recruiting clans. It became the Mandalorian clanning clan, as it were. You then see a dip in activity and stuff for various reasons. They sort of go their own way, and a lot of rad people joined Dhyre and were very helpful in getting Dhyre active and strong. And then you see another revive later. So there've been a few of these, but Varad stayed strong by maintaining a group of skilled and loyal people and focusing mainly on clanning and going purely into that one. Dhyre stayed alive by keeping the mix, but ensuring that we kept pushing ourselves as far as we could. And you get to the point where Dhyre is by far after Varad stops being active, by far the strongest clan in the Mandalorian community. This was true from about 2022 to 2024. We weren't always active. But from then we were generally solidly active and one of the strongest. Now, there's peaks and troughs, of course, and you start to see a small revive of the community in various bits. But then in early 2024, sorry, things not good generally for Roblox, and we all decide to walk away. Now this lasts from Dhyre. This lasts for a while until Jaster makes a return, and he tries to. And he's working with Jack, and he decides to try and threaten Dhyre to try and forcefully take it from us. It's a long story, but he wanted Dhyre for a project he was doing, and he said that if I didn't agree, he'd do it without me. So I decided, as a fuck him, we would bring back Dhyre for a bit. Now this went well for a couple months, and then it sort of fell apart, and it died with a whimper in late 2024. But
all those communities do, yeah.
Yeah, but the difference between Dhyre and many others is that while many others have died with a whimper, the core, I mean, you're all still here. You all stayed on, which is testament to the values that Dhyre has always had. The strength and autonomy of the clans, a strong core culture, mixes combat and tradition and chill, and essentially just a friend group. And it's why, and when in 2025, I decided to see if everyone was wanted to come back. I mean, you all came back, so it speaks to Dhyre's strengths. There have been many clans, but and there have been many different threats, both to Dhyre and the community. But no one else has really ever been able to have as much success as an independent clan, except for Varad, as we have. So that is sort of a summarized history of Dhyre. There's been various peaks and troughs, but Dhyre has always been been a top clan in the community. Whether it be a respected middle power just below the top boys, or the top of the Mandalorian community. There've been various ups and downs. There've been various revives and whatnot, but Dhyre has always been, in my eyes, the defender of the independent clans, and one of the last true independent clans of old left. So yes, that's sort of a summarized history of it all as I see it. Does anyone
I
have
should have
anything
done
that?
more with y'all. Well, I had Vizsla really kicking. Like
Yeah.
I was happy when I just managed to make Vizsla a thing anyway. Like I wasn't trying too hard to make it huge, but I was happy when I managed to accomplish like its establishment and recognition by a lot of people. And more importantly, I knew Jack was peeved. That's where I felt like I accomplished something because I was just like, okay, he's mad that I'm recognized because
Yeah.
he was like harassing me and other people about
And
it, and he even got what's his name, Akan, to like double back because Akan was initially behind me, like propping up the group and making it more active, and then he started like being like, "We're gonna go back into the fold with Jack," and I'm like. Did you just like drink Kool-Aid or some shit? Like, did you just like
He's
you're a
on
hypocrite? And
lean.
like, yeah, he just wanted that free kit and dev shit that Jack was promising, and a cushy HR position. And I was just like, no, I want to lead a Vizsla that actually is original and not just the same shit over and over with new dev kits that he buys. And I
Yeah.
left, and I made it the new group, with actually turned out to be an old group. And then I managed to, take most people, the people that were newer with me, and made it part of the Redeemers. Made a decent impact. I feel it wasn't too recognized for too long because it was only like
Can-
2 years. I think I did that.
Kind of a shame what happened with the Redeemers, though. Kind of like those guys.
The Redeemers were like the sparkling gem of that period they existed in because they were the only people saying, "Hey, no matter where you're from or how good you are, you can come be like here and have fun." And then like half the community proceeds to just go, alphabet people, fuck, and then he
I
just
remember when I was clanning still, like actively, because I started clanning in January of 2023.
Yeah.
I remember whether it would be, I'd just be I'd be in a game, just fucking one of the clan games, defending or raiding whatever. I'd see one random motherfucker, something reclaim. I'm like, that's a nice name. And then 5 days later, I see something else reclaim. I'm like, that's a nice name, but I think I've seen that person, and I find a group. I'm like, this group is owned by something reclaimer. This has to be a fucking family or something. I find it and I'm like, oh, it is. Nice. I don't want to join it, but I'm like, I want to join it, but I can't be bothered. It looks nice, nice name, but I don't give a fuck. I think at one point I was thinking of buying one of their clans, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing the fucking name reclaimer pop up once
The
every
biggest
week or so in a
thing
raid.
I think we achieved though with the Redeemers was getting people a little more creative with being Mandalorians because everyone was just kind of like copy paste for the longest time. But Redeemers, it seemed like everyone actually was enthusiastic about trying their own things, doing their like being way more experimental, which I think it should be the point with Mandalorian clans is if you make a clan,
Yeah.
it's because you want to do something unique with it, not just because you want to make a
I
clan.
agree, and that touches on an important
Yeah.
thing, which I'll work that into my summary at the end. Before I get, because that's an important thing about Dhyre as well. Before I get onto that though, is there any questions or anything at all you've got for me now? Anything you want me to clarify? Anything at all? Everyone's all good.
Give me mug.
I'm good.
Where's the grog?
Cool. So
There we go.
I'll bring it into my summary then. So when that's really the core of it with Dhyre. So we've always tried to be unique, as it were. I mean, you can see it with the Dhyre cell. We in terms of influences, one of the major ones has always been, Lord of the Rings, Anglo-Saxons, that sort of thing, because with that old Rohirrim proper clan dynamic. In terms of armor and the clans moot, we pioneered that. There was no other clan which at the time which did anything like this. We were the only clan to do anything like a clans moot, and people liked it, so they ended up so many ended up utilizing something like it for their own groups. I think Redeemers
Actually,
did
this
something.
place gives me Viking vibes, this building.
Yeah, Anglo-Saxons, Vikings use same sort of architecture, but this is based on the Meduseld from Edoras. And the Rohirrim from Lord of the Rings are based primarily off the Anglo-Saxons. It gives Viking vibes for people who aren't familiar with Anglo-Saxons, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's the same sort. It overlaps, but and in terms of individual armor, many people have custom armor. So we again sort of a middle ground because at the time you either saw all uniform armor, and generally for the big clans that was all they did. Everyone had the same sort of armor, or you had everyone wearing different armor which they bought from the catalog. We were one of the first clans. We were the first clan, at least at the time. It used to be done a bit more earlier on, but it fell out of favor. At the time, we were the first clan to pioneer the use of custom armor for members.
Jax
And,
Vizsla did it, but they were just he treated Vizsla more
Yeah.
like a branch of Deathwatch than
Yeah.
he did an actual clan.
Exactly, and it was
It was like
nothing
it was like a
the same.
subdivision for just
Yeah.
all of the officers. They all got to
Yeah.
be Vizslas and wear special armor.
And that was earlier on, and it was not. It had died by the time we get to this point, and it was
Mhm.
nothing like on the scale that we did for Dhyre.
I'm pretty
Wait,
sure,
what?
I'm pretty sure when it comes to like Vizsla and Deathwatch, it's like the whole other way around, where Vizsla is grander than Deathwatch.
Well, like they did
Right.
the way he made Vizsla when I was in it, because I joined back in 2011. I was a part of it for on and off at the beginning. Because when Akan and him like had infighting, when like I just didn't get the full picture, but I was like, this is getting a little messy because then Akan did some leaking shit and other stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna bug out for a minute, and then I rejoined around 2014, 15 again. But like, essentially, what it had turned into was if you weren't in like the what's it called, the Night Owls or the other divisions, as an officer, you were just shoved into Vizsla, so you could feel special wearing that armor. That was really it.
That kind of sounds stupid.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, he didn't really do anything with the clan aspect.
Banana.
but yeah. So and to summarize, we've got that. There's no other Mandalorian clan on Roblox which had this sort of aesthetic, and I believe Cast liked it, so he was inspired by it to create eventually the Hall of the Mandalore. Though I don't think that ever got finished. But well, not the Hall of the Mandalore, but the Throne Room of the Mandalore. But yes, and so you've got that. You've got the clans moot. You've got the custom uniforms. We go on to inspire a number of different clans to take a more traditional approach. Ultimately, we have always had a strong identity, strong traditions, but also we've not been afraid to innovate where needed. We've always represented a sort of middle way. We've upheld the old traditions. We've also been able to move with the times as needed. We've stood strong as an independent clan. Yeah, so that sort of is a history of Dhyre as I see it, and some of Dhyre's traditions and their strengths and influences and whatnot. A very a friend group, a proper family type of clan, as it were, a mixture of combat with a focus on strength through growth in the traditional Mandalorian fashion, but with balanced with tradition and without war for war's sake, which is one of the things that destroyed many other Mandalorian groups. And yeah, all of that sort of mix has made Dhyre what it is today. And it's this sort of, and I mean, just my leadership style, very personal. You know what I'm like. I like to do. I make sure I keep in touch with everyone. I think I don't. I don't. Not like Jack, where or the Death Watch, where things are very regimented. But
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of summarizes things as I see it, and that. So what? And now I think before we'll end it, I'll just open it to you lads. Do you have anything else you'd like to add on about Dhyre? what do you think what do you enjoy most so far? Generally speaking, what is it that attracted you to Dhyre? If you have anything
I
to
just
add.
like y'all's aesthetic, yeah, really. Aura
Uh,
farming is a big part of Mandalorians.
Yep.
Like anyone who disagrees doesn't know the reason. Like the reason people liked Boba Fett was nothing to do with lore. It was just the fact he was a cool ass 20-second featured character in episode 5 and
Basically.
2-minute in episode 6, and that was it. And then some people expanded lore from books, and then George Lucas was asked about it, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." And and then just it snowballed from there. Like it's literally blew up because dude just aura farmed that hard.
Basically.
yeah, fair. What
But
brought
yeah,
me in?
so
Anyways, what brought me into Dhyre is mostly the fact that Zeno described what Dhyre is to me someday, around like 2022, I think. He brought me in, and here I am.
yes. So yes, does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Anything they'd like to add?
I wish y'all would get on Star Wars: Old Republic. I'd introduce y'all to the greater roleplay community on there. It's pretty
Yes.
chill.
I would play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
if
think-
you want to get into it, let me know. Like honestly, because I know a few people in here, like 1 or 2 people are in here. Are what's her name? I always
Oh,
forget her
yes.
name on Roblox.
Lego.
She is the cantina.
Arthik.
Arfik, yeah. Arfik's over on Mando today, but she doesn't RP much. She doesn't go in the greater community. But if you guys want to get into because here's the thing, I'm in the underworld community on there. I'm in the Mando sphere that's active anyway, and it's all in Starforge. So if you, it's a technically American, but there's a plenty of British and European people over there too. But
British.
it's like a good community, at least the subsection I'm in, which is centered around mainly the Akul Collective, which is a bunch of pirates and other people. And yeah, it's like a job hub server where they have a format where people can make jobs and people can sign up and their characters can get paid for doing stuff,
Yeah,
But
that sounds real cool.
I lead. I have one guild that's a proper clan guild, Clan Saxon. I've shown art. My art of my profile picture is a Dhyre, though he's spelled the old Republic way, no H. He's Jod Dhyre. He's the current owner in that era of the Oyabot. Inherited it from the previous owner who died in a bombing from the Hidden Chain, which, if you don't know in-game lore, long story short, Hidden Chain are the last dying breaths of the Neo-Crusader mindset in this era. They're
I'm
a bunch
just gonna
of...
interrupt very
Yeah.
quickly. I just want to finish the lore night because it's all
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
all recorded, and then you can talk about if anyone wants to do SWAT or message Bran, he'll explain it.
Yes.
Cool. But yeah, so Tyler, I remember you joined from Fana. I think you were in Fana originally, and I put you into that.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I hear
Banner,
you are,
man. That takes me back.
pretty much.
You are my pupil. You will follow me. Okay.
Basically. But yeah, so is
I
there
don't fucking remember
anything?
how I even got here. I just know one day I joined and I was like, meh, I'm here now. That's all
Yeah.
I can remember from that.
That's
Just
that's
fucking,
normally how it
I'm here.
works.
I just spawned in.
I just
Doing
kind of always
years.
knew you guys because some of the founders of Dhyre were in the Mass Effect community, which I ran for a long time. So when
Killmaster,
they started, yeah, when
Blue Suns reference?
I was Blue Suns.
I heard nothing but-
MEU Revival 2025.
But yes,
No, never again. I will kill it with a fucking knife.
Okay,
yeah,
overseer.
very quickly, boys. Is there anything anyone else wants to say? before we wrap it up?
Mandalorian combat.
Mandalorian combat. So yes, thank you all for coming. If you want to stay and just shoot the shit, you're more than welcome to. If you want to know about SWATR and all of that, feel free to message
Yeah.
Bran. Other than that, you're free to leave. Cheers for coming, boys. We'll do more of this sort of thing going forwards every once in a while. I'll dive into other topics as well.
Sounds great.
Good stuff. Cheers, boys. When,
Yeah. Also,
Tyler,
Kill,
what-
if you